9 times out of 10, when you take the bike and it's already you've now done your assembly and we're ready to check the brakes, the back wheel should spin freely within the brakes and stop by pulling the brake lever. However, sometimes it may rub or it may require some adjustment. So I think what's important now is to try and talk through the main parts of adjusting the rear brake. Okay, so I've adjusted this now so that it does actually rub on the rear brake, so we do need to make a slight adjustment. Now there are several ways in which we can adjust the brakes on the bike, and it's a standard rear caliper brake. We've got a brake now that is rubbing slightly on the back wheel. And what I'd like to do is show you firstly how to adjust that so that that should no longer be a problem. First of all, take a look down between the brake blocks and the rim to see which side is touching. And it's obvious on this that it's the left brake block that is slightly touching on the rim of the wheel. These are aluminium wheels, so they're usually very unlikely to be out of true or warped. Sometimes it can happen, but it's not that usual on a bike like this. So what we now need to do is create some space between the rear brake block and the rim. And this can be done simply by tightening the screw with a Phillips screwdriver that actually sits out of the bottom lever of the rear caliper brake. So if we tighten that up, we should find that it does actually, in fact sometimes it's better to do this upside down, it should actually create some space between the rear brake block and the back wheel. Okay, so we're going to try to adjust this rear brake by simply adjusting the screw that's at the bottom of the brake caliper. We've identified that it's the left hand, the bike's now upside down, but it's the left hand brake block which is too close to the rim. So by turning in a clockwise direction, which is to the right, we should hopefully be able to create a bit more space, and the wheel will then turn freely, and we've made that fine adjustment. This is a fine adjustment technique. I'll talk in a second about what other measures can be taken if that's not successful, but that looks fine. That looks now as if it's working properly against the back wheel. Okay, and the same applies on the right hand side. If you need to adjust that, there's a screw which we do with a Phillips screwdriver which is positioned there, and you can make fine adjustments to the position of the brake block on the opposite side of the wheel rim as well. Now if further adjustment is required, it can also be done on the brake lever itself. As you'll notice here, this is a screw which can be tightened or loosened out in order to increase or decrease the length of cable that goes to the rear brake, and out of the box that will be positioned close to the brake lever, which means the cable length will in effect be at its longest. By turning the screw, you in effect shorten the length of the cable to the rear brake. And it's important when you've unscrewed the first part of that you tighten the second part just to secure it in place. But that will actually shorten, as you can see now. I've actually shortened the cable length so the brake blocks are now rubbing, and if I undo that again, you should find that the rear wheel runs freely back inside. So that's the second way of adjusting the brakes if necessary. And the third way of adjusting the brakes would be to fundamentally alter the length of cable that actually comes through into the caliper. And by unscrewing the locking nuts, then you will find that you are able to feed more of the brake cable through, which will release the tension and open out the brakes a considerable amount this time, Then you need obviously to make sure that you are able to reduce the length of the cable again by unscrewing the fixture next to the brake lever. Has to be said that when you unleash more cable length, you're making a significant difference to the distance of the brake blocks on the rim of the wheel. So that's something that I would do as a last resort if it was clear that you required more length on the cable. Okay, so the last thing to remember is probably to tuck the brake cable behind in order that that is then kept out of the way of the leg. So if you just simply tuck the brake cable behind the tensioned metal fork, that will keep it out of the way of young riders when the legs pass over the front. And the final adjustment that you can make for very small hands is on this screw, which directly affects the reach of the brake lever. So you'll find that when that comes from the factory, the screw is out at maximum length, but by tightening that screw and making it move further in towards the brake, you will find that you'll notice now that the brake lever will start to you can see it start to actually come towards the handlebar, so that the reach from the handlebar to the brake lever is reduced for much smaller hands, but still retains an effective braking procedure. So that can be adjusted as well in order to reduce the distance between the brake lever and the handlebar. And as I unscrew, you can see it moves back into a normal position. So the third technique for adjusting the brakes would be to unrelease that cable, unscrew with an Allen key, with your 5mm Allen key, the locking nuts, and feed cable through or pull cable out, and that obviously fundamentally changes the distance between the brake block and the rim of the wheel. Making sure to carefully tuck the cable away again so that it's out the way of the child's legs.